Who is hitting well? Who is going to stay hot? We are talking hitting here on Fantasy Baseball today, brought to you by Captain Morgan, Lauren Shehadi, Eric Mack, Orestes Destrade. Before we go any further,
pitch to me, please.
I'm ready.
Oh, okay.
I'm
no,
a lefty,
I want to hit.
Before we go any further, you've been waiting for your hitting planner. Wait no longer. Scott White is on Fantasy Row with all the scoop.
The team with the best matchups this week is the Minnesota Twins. They face the Royals and the Indians, which means anyone you might be on the fence about, Denard Span, Jason Kubel, maybe even J.J. Hardy, you're going to want to get them in your lineup. The Chicago Cubs face 5 left-handed pitchers this week, which means Kosuke Fukudome, Mike Fontenot, going to be bad starts for you in NL-only leagues. A couple of guys I do like, though, Alfonso Soriano might have a good chance of bouncing back. And as a kind of a one-week stopgap, Ryan Theriot, a career .306 hitter against left-handed pitchers, might be someone who could replace Jimmy Rollins for you. Who would have thought 2 of the biggest surprise hitters of the season would be playing in Kansas City? Scott Podsednik hitting about .460 with 7 steals so far. Rick Ankiel hit his 3rd home run Saturday. Both drafted in less than 20% of leagues. Both probably still available in your league. Both ready to start already? Well, since the Royals are facing just one left-hander, it's a distinct possibility. Last week, I talked about Colby Rasmus being my favorite breakout hitter of the season so far, and then he proceeded to go hitless this week heading into Sunday night's game, batting .179. He didn't even play against 2 of the left-handed pitchers the Cardinals face this week, which is a bad sign going forward. I might like him to bounce back against 5 right-handed pitchers this week if 4 of them didn't happen to be Tim Lincecum, Matt Cain, Dan Herron, and Edwin Jackson. My start of the week for this week, my favorite sleeper, is Nyjer Morgan. The Nationals played left-handers in more than half of their games of the season so far, so he hasn't gotten a chance to do what he's capable of yet. They play right-handers in 5 of 7 games this week, though. He hit .344 against them last year, and they're playing all 7 games at home, where he hit .333 last year. He's going to hit over 300, which means plenty of steals this week. Get him active.
That was Scott White from Fantasy Row talking a little bit about the Royals, and we're going to continue that right now, starting with Scott Podsednik. What do you think?
Brother, starting with all their cast-offs. I mean, this has become cast-off island. We have Fantasy Baseball island here we'll get to, but I mean, Rick Ankiel, unfortunately didn't have a position with St. Louis. KC takes him aboard. Jose Guillen's been there already a few years, but he was kind of a quasi-cast-off, an unruly kind of guy in the clubhouse, but an RBI machine that once again is off to a great start. And Scott Podsednik, maybe the White Sox fans say, why did we give up Scott Podsednik again? Bring him back. So all quality professionals hitters, E-Mac, and I like that because they have a lot of young hitters too in there, like an Alex Gordon who's coming back that is going to struggle.
Opportunity reigns in Kansas City, and that's sometimes you need at-bats to get opportunities.
That's right. You mentioned Jose Guillen. I think that's where you're going with this. What kind of year is he in?
Well, he's that guy, a little bit of an erratic personality. But then I looked at his best years, his 3 best years, all were going into free agency and contract years. And I think this is the type of guy that is motivated by contract year. He could sustain this. He's motivated to stay in the lineup. He might not have been motivated to stay in the lineup before. He's like, whatever, I got a contract. I don't care about these guys in my clubhouse. But Jose Guillen is a guy that's motivated. And when you have a motivated Jose Guillen, you can see what he can do. He can do some damage. I start him in a mixed league.
All right, there you go. That's what we want to know. Our fantasy owners are sitting at work and saying, get to it. I want to know who to buy. I want to know who to sell. Wait no longer. Here it is, starting with starting with Andruw Jones. Let's start with him. Can he have another big year?
Well, he's not going to hit 30 homers. I think you could get probably 20 to 25, but I don't think he's going to play every day, and that's enough for me to not trust him in a mixed league. You could trust him in an AL-only format. He's a valuable player in AL-only because he's going to produce power in a shallow position of outfield. In a deeper AL-only league, there's not as many teams to pick from in an AL-only league as an NL-only league. So outfielders like Andruw Jones that can produce are valuable in those formats.
What about Jason Varitek? Just picked him up.
Picked him up. I don't actually like what he's done there because he's getting a guy that might only start once a week.
Well, but hold on a second, just 1 second.
Right.
The dude's got 3 jacks in 3 games that he's played. There's a guy by the name of David Ortiz who's off to another slow start, and unfortunately, media-wise, is getting a lot of negative, and I don't agree with it because I think Big Papi will turn it around. But you may see Jason Varitek get some at-bats there, and it's tricky on the DH role because he's got to catch. But, maybe they do a little swapping off. Maybe he plays a little first. He may get some at-bats early on in the season if he's this hot.
famously a slow or fast starter.
Correct.
Jason Varitek, and he
correct.
wears down. They're going to keep him on the bench to keep him healthier and fresher for the second half. So I don't think he plays every day. Now,
No, not
they
every
are, and the Terry
I
Francona.
needed a backup catcher. I was stuck.
Terry Francona wants to give David Ortiz time. You know, he waited 2 months for David Ortiz to pop off, and then after June 1st last year, David Ortiz led baseball with 27 homers. So I think David Ortiz, they're going to give time. They're not going to let Varitek, even though he's hot right now, they're not going to let him play enough to be effective enough to start in a mixed league like O's trying to do.
You can't say he's not honest, though. I love that. I needed a backup.
There are other catchers that play more than Varitek, even though he's got those homers in those 3
I'm
starts.
old school. I like
He
my
started
old school
3
guys.
games in 2 weeks.
I play my fantasy league kind of like, you know, my buddies, you know, that I know. So that's a mistake out there. Don't do that.
Moving on, Josh Willingham, the next name on this list. What do you
He's a streaky guy with a good OPS. I think last year he had an injury-plagued year. It's been that way with Willingham. When he's healthy, he can mash, and this is what you could get out of Willingham. I think in a deeper mixed league, he's a valuable pickup. He's a guy you can ride. And the Nationals, they've already gotten rid of their dead weight that was affecting Josh Willingham's playing time. They got rid of Elijah Dukes. Willingham is going to play every day, and he really hasn't had that since his early days with the Marlins.
Juan Uribe.
Juan Uribe is an interesting guy. He's playing every day for Freddie Sanchez, who's going to be out at least till May. And he's got power. He's a streaky guy who's on a streak, and he's versatile. He can play third base, shortstop, second base. And in those leagues that don't have reserves or they limit the amount of transactions, a guy like Juan Uribe is invaluable because even if he's on your bench, you get an injury like Aaron Hill goes down with a hamstring, you can pop Juan Uribe into a number of different positions. It's very, very important to have in those leagues that limit transactions and they don't have a lot of reserves, to have a guy like Juan Uribe that can play all those positions.
And props to their first-year hitting coach, Hensley Bam Bam Mullins. Back in there, you might remember Hensley. And by the way, he just had a baby boy, so congratulations.
Congratulations.
Bam Bam. So,
Did he name his baby Bam Bam?
No, you got me. I forgot, but he just texted me that he had a baby, so I can't remember what his name is.
Look, friends in high places. That's what we like. Juan Pierre, next on this list. What do you think he meant?
Juan Pierre had 3 stolen bases on Sunday. I know his average is low, and I know O said it with Scott Podsednik. Why did we get rid of this guy? Well, they have Juan Pierre. I think Juan Pierre is the better player than Scott Podsednik. It doesn't look that way right now, but he's going to steal a lot of bases. He could get 40 plus. And the White Sox, they have an 80s manager who likes to run. He plays that game. In the 80s, it was more of a stolen base era with the Ricky Hendersons of the world. Jose Guillen played in it. He manages it that way, and Juan Pierre is a guy who's going to steal a ton of bases in rotisserie leagues. He's got to stay active.
You like him? Do you like Hunter Pence?
I love Hunter Pence. In fact, he
Do
just was dropped in our podcast league, and I think that's wrong. Hunter Pence with the return of Lance Berkman, Carlos Lee's coming back. He's going to get hot. Hunter Pence is going to get hot. I think all these Astros are going to get hot. In fact, I'm buying the Astros. I'm buying Hunter Pence.
Nothing wrong there. I really like Hunter Pence. I think he's been struggling a whole lot.
Streaky hitter.
Well, he's streaky, but also because Carlos Lee's struggling, then he's putting a lot of pressure on himself even more so. Carlos Lee's sitting back and not really kind of, you know, he knows that it'll come around. But this kid is young. I'm a little concerned about that. That's why Lance Berkman coming back, it's very, very important for this team because it adds that extra veteran bat.
Emac, you have had your time in the spotlight. It is time to turn it over to our good friend, Orestes, for Fantasy Baseball Island.
Yes, thank you, Shehadi. Yes, yes. Places, everyone. Places. Okay, because Makatu has said the plane is here, and we have 3 more guests, and I am Mr. O, your horse, of course. And this week, we have some guests, and it kind of has a food flavor to this thing a little bit. And our first one is Prince Fielder. Yes, I ran into Prince Fielder many, many years ago, 1984, when he was 6 months old. His father, Big Daddy Fielder, you might remember, was a big home run hitter for the Detroit Tigers. He introduced me to his son. We were playing winter ball. He was 6 months old, 72 pounds. Something like that, around there somewhere. He was a big baby, let me put it that way. What we're going to do with him, because no power, we're going to feed him Yaya's, my mom's Yaya famous Cuban rice and beans. Sons, the roasted pork, because guys, he's a vegan, I think. He doesn't like, so we're going to be tofu or something like that. But that's going to get him going because the power is in the beans. We all know that. Anyway, number 2, Raúl Ibáñez, mi cubanito. ¿Qué pasa, Raúl? Por favor. This guy was mashing last year. What we're going to do is give him a little bit of relaxation, some massage in the island, and also feed him the roast pork from Yaya's that the princess spurned because of the vegan thing. So he'll eat that. He's going to hit. We send him back to Philly. Then lastly is J.D. Drew. J.D. Drew. Whoever drew in your draft, wow, that's complicated. I'm not going to pull that back. You're having trouble right now. 132 he hit this week. What we're going to do with him is put him with some of the leftovers from Yaya's in a room closed in with Scott Boras' agent for 24 hours. That will drive him insane, and he's going to want to go back to hitting in Boston. Trust me on that one. They will be fine. I don't think we'll have a long stay for these 3.
Streaky players, all of them. And I think Mark Teixeira came out and hit a homer on Sunday.
And is he off the island?
Not yet.
Milton Bradley was off the island. He's back now because he's hurt.
Yeah.
And he liked the
Well,
island.
he's off the reservation.
Yeah, well, he's on a different, all by himself. He's in Gilligan's Island. And then Carlos Lee, still on the island. Still on the island.
Yeah.
Eating a lot of food, by the way. I need to get him off the island because he's eating me out of house and island.
The horse.
He tried to eat Macatoo the other day. It's incredible.
If you have Fielder or Drew or Ibanez, hopefully they get off the island. And hopefully you're into data and analysis because we have all of that coming up after the break. We'll be right back.